Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. O'Neill, who is the Southern Poverty Law Center?
Southern Poverty Law Center is a far-left radical activist group that routinely smears conservative and Christian organizations, putting them on a map with the Ku Klux Klan.
Well, first of all, does the Southern Poverty Law Center partner with the Open Society Foundation?
Yes, the Southern Poverty Law Center received $75,000 from foundation to promote Open Society.
And the Open Society Foundation gets money from the American taxpayer, is that right?
No, the Open Society Foundation does not. There was an arm of the Open Society Foundation that is now closed that received a large number. Yes.
It did get. Okay. And as you pointed out, the Southern Poverty Law Center labels a lot of conservative groups as hate groups.
Yes,
right?
Including Focus on the Family this year.
Focus on the Family, Alliance Defending Freedom, Family Research Council,
Turning Point
Center
USA.
for Immigration Studies, Moms for Liberty. Moms are now a hate group?
Yes, they put Moms for Liberty on there. They actually said that they compared them to the Uptown Klan of the 1950s.
And you know what's interesting? I found this. We made an issue of this, and thank goodness it stopped with our new Justice Department. But in the old Justice Department under Mr. Biden, there was this. You may remember this memorandum put out by the Richmond FBI field office. You remember this, Mr. O'Neill? Yeah, yes. And do you know when they talked about traditional Catholics were extremists? Do you know who they cited in the footnote in this? I got the actual FBI memorandum. You know who they cited in that memorandum?
The Southern Poverty Law Center.
The Southern Poverty Law Center. Go figure. Okay, how about this? Who's the Tides Foundation?
They are the oldest dark money pass-through organization. They pioneered the process that now Arabella Advisors has perfected.
And I think in your testimony I'm looking at, you said there's various, the Service Employees International Union gave money to a group that then gave money to the Tides Foundation. Is that true?
No, the SEIU gave directly to
they gave directly.
Advocacy and the Tides Foundation, yes.
Yeah, and then I think also in your testimony you point out that the Tides Foundation not only got money from left-wing union groups, but they also got money directly from the taxpayers through USAID. Is that right?
Correct. It was $27 million.
$27 million.
It was awarded. Not all of those grants were fulfilled.
And what's the Tides Foundation up to? What kind of crazy things are they doing with taxpayer money and left-wing employee union money? What are they doing?
Bankrolling the Southern Poverty Law Center, for one. They also have an in-house nonprofit called Palestine Legal.
So Tides Foundation gets a boatload of taxpayer money. People I get the privilege of representing from the 4th District of Ohio, some of their money is going to the Tides Foundation. Then is then going to the Southern Poverty Law Center, where they can label moms as terrorists and say that if you're a Catholic, you're an extremist. That all happens with American tax dollars. Is that right?
We don't have concrete proof of the fact of the Tides Center receiving money that they then gave to the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Money is fungible. We're not.
So your overall point is 100%.
Okay. So that's all happening here in the United States, but it's even worse, right? Because the Tides Foundation also gets involved, Mr. Gonzalez was pointing to this, gets involved overseas as well. And one of the things we know they're doing, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. O'Neill, that we know they're doing is they're taking some of that money to undermine our allies and friends like Prime Minister Netanyahu in the state of Israel. Is that right?
Well, one of the big things they have is an in-house nonprofit representing anti-Israel rioters on college campuses called Palestine Legal.
Yeah.
So yes.
So they're doing it here and there, undermining Israel here and there, anti-Semitic activity here on our campuses, all with American tax money. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And the other side says, again, Mr. Van Drew shouldn't be having this hearing. Are you kidding me? American tax dollars used to say, moms are terrorists, we're going to go after pro-life Catholics, and our best friend internationally, our best ally, the state of Israel, we're going to undermine their government while we're at it. Such a deal for the taxpayers, huh?
On the point from Ranking Member Raskin, he noted that George Soros does not have power. Alex Soros was asked if he would run for office, and he said that he would not because he believes that as head of the Open Society Foundations, he has more power than he ever would if he had any office in the land.
Well, based on what we just described, it sure looks like they got a lot of influence. And all we're saying is maybe we shouldn't send American tax dollars to these organizations that are undermining American taxpayers. Wow. And somehow we're not supposed to have this hearing. I yield back.
Will the gentleman yield just quickly? All I want to say, I didn't say he didn't have power. I said he did not have official governmental power. Thank you.
I have a use.
Welcome back to America First. Patriots. I'm your host, and if this is your first time here, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe because we're bringing you the truth that the mainstream media won't touch. Ring that notification bell so you never miss our content, exposing what's really happening to our country. Today, I want to react to some explosive testimony from a recent congressional hearing that should have every American taxpayer absolutely furious. We're talking about how your hard-earned tax dollars are being funneled through a web of left-wing organizations to attack conservative Americans, Christian families, and even our closest ally, Israel. Let me break this down for you because this is exactly the kind of deep state operation that patriots have been warning about for years. The Southern Poverty Law Center, which presents itself as some noble civil rights organization, has been exposed as nothing more than a far-left activist group with one mission: destroy conservative America. Think about this for a moment. This organization has the audacity to put groups like Focus on the Family, Alliance Defending Freedom, and the Family Research Council on the same hate map as the KKK. Focus on the Family. Folks, an organization dedicated to strengthening marriages and helping families raise children with Christian values, is somehow equivalent to a terrorist organization according to these people. But here's where it gets really infuriating. They've now labeled Moms for Liberty as a hate group. Moms for Liberty. These are mothers who simply want a say in their children's education, who don't want radical gender ideology pushed on their kids, who believe parents should have rights over their own children. And according to the SPLC, these moms are now comparable to the KKK of the 1950s. This isn't just ideological warfare. Patriots. This is a systematic attempt to silence and criminalize anyone who holds traditional American values. When you can't win the argument, you simply label your opponents as terrorists and hate groups. It's straight out of the authoritarian playbook. Now here's the part that should make every taxpayer's blood boil. The testimony revealed that the SPLC received over $77,000 from George Soros' Open Society Foundation. But it doesn't stop there. The money trail gets even more disturbing when you follow it through the Tides Foundation. The Tides Foundation, described as the oldest dark money pass-through organization in the country, received $27 million in taxpayer money through USAID. Let that sink in. $27 million of your tax dollars went to an organization that then funnels money to groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center. So here's what's happening. You go to work every day, you pay your taxes, and that money is being used to fund organizations that label you as a terrorist if you're a concerned parent, an extremist if you're a traditional Catholic, or a hate group member if you support conservative family values. The hearing also exposed how deep this corruption goes within our own government. There was an FBI memorandum from the Richmond field office that labeled traditional Catholics as extremists. And guess who they cited as their source? The Southern Poverty Law Center. Our own FBI is using a partisan activist organization to justify targeting American citizens based on their religious beliefs. This is exactly what we mean when we talk about the weaponization of government against conservatives. It's not conspiracy theory. It's documented fact being discussed in congressional hearings. The same organization that calls your neighbor who goes to school board meetings a terrorist is being used by federal law enforcement to justify surveillance and investigation of American citizens. But the corruption doesn't stop at our borders. The Tides Foundation operates something called Palestine Legal, which represents anti-Israel activists on college campuses. So not only are your tax dollars being used to attack American conservatives, they're also being used to undermine our strongest ally in the Middle East. Think about the audacity of this system. American taxpayers are funding organizations that work to destabilize Israel, support anti-Semitic activities on college campuses, and label Jewish state supporters as extremists. Meanwhile, these same organizations receive government contracts and maintain their tax-exempt status. This hearing pulled back the curtain on something patriots have known for years. There's a coordinated network of left-wing organizations using taxpayer money to wage war against traditional American values. They use terms like hate group and extremist not because these labels are accurate, but because they're politically useful weapons. When Alex Soros says he has more power running the Open Society Foundation than he would in any elected office. He's telling you exactly how this system works. Unelected bureaucrats and activist organizations wield more influence over American policy than the people we actually vote for. The Service Employees International Union funnels money to the Tides Foundation. The Tides Foundation gets millions in taxpayer grants. That money flows to organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center. The SPLC then produces reports labeling conservatives as hate groups. The FBI uses those reports to justify investigating American citizens. It's a perfect circle of corruption funded by your tax dollars. This is why we need representatives who will stand up and ask these tough questions. This is why congressional oversight matters. And this is why the establishment doesn't want hearings like this to happen. They know that when Americans see how their money is really being used, they get angry. Every parent watching this needs to understand what's at stake. If you've ever spoken up at a school board meeting, if you've ever questioned radical curriculum, if you've ever voted for conservative candidates, you're potentially on these lists. Your government, using your own money, is funding organizations that view you as the enemy. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires political will. Cut off the taxpayer funding. End the government contracts. Revoke the tax-exempt status of organizations engaged in partisan political activity. Make these groups survive on private donations instead of taxpayer subsidies. We also need to hold our representatives accountable. If your congressman or senator isn't demanding answers about how taxpayer money flows to these radical organizations, they're part of the problem. Primary season is coming, and we need to elect people who will actually fight for American taxpayers instead of just talking about it. This hearing proves that everything we've been saying about the deep state and the corruption in Washington is true. It's not conspiracy theory when there's documented evidence and congressional testimony.